That time you had something to watch.
The official time. 6:30.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the April 16th Christiansburg Council work session to order. The subject of tonight's session is it's a work session on the budget that was presented 2 weeks ago, a week ago. So are there any adjustments to the agenda? I'm hearing none. We'll move into discussion and action by mayor and council. And what I would like to suggest, that we start off talking about the community grants, because we in the past have spent 3 and 4 hours on these things, and it's now we need, there's a short list. And what council thought, we want to get it out of the way and then go into the other stuff? Or get out of the way? Okay. So we have a couple of options as I see it. The fund budget is $58,813, which is down only $3,000 from the year before. And in the past, we have had it as high as $140,000. So we can vote to approve in full. We can vote to take it out totally, or if we determine that we want to go through the list, then I will then do a poll and get a recommendation as to whether a particular item stays in.
I say do a poll.
Huh?
Poll.
Poll, okay. And this is not a yay or nay vote on the budget. This is just your personal preference as to what you would like to see in this budget. Now, before that, I'm going to make a statement of potential conflict of interest. Within our county support, community support grants, portion of it is an item request by Imagination Library of Montgomery County. I'm a member of the board of directors of the above organization. I will not cast a vote or break a tie on this particular request. I do intend to vote on the residential funding of these grants. Portion of the budget. I do intend to vote on this matter if needed for inclusion in, removal of, and adjustment to the budget. So, first one that we are looking at is Community Health Center, formerly the Free Clinic. Huh?
I thought we were gonna do them all as a whole.
Children's Trust, that's
One at a
the Child Advocacy Center. So, let's see, Mr. Bishop.
So, I'm sorry, which one are we getting?
It's $9,000 on
Okay.
Children's Trust.
Okay. So you need a yay or nay from me? Is that
In or out?
is that how we do?
I'll do in or out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah.
Ms. Hicks,
Out on all of them.
I'm sorry,
Out on all of them.
out on all of them. I'm still gonna call you each time.
Okay.
Ms. Hoppy,
Yes. And then,
Mr. Wilson?
No.
Ms. Bowman?
no.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
So that is 3-3. I will vote. Yeah, I will vote in. That one made the cut. The next is the Community Health Foundation, formerly the Free Clinic, $10,000. They were not awarded a grant in 2025. They were awarded a grant in 2024. So, Mr. Bishop, in or out?
In.
Ms. Hicks?
No.
Ms. Hockett,
In.
Mr. Wilson,
Out.
Ms. Bowman,
Out.
Mr. Jenkins.
And
Full vote out. The next is the Imagination Library, Montgomery County, Virginia. $7,500. It's the first time they've ever requested this. Mr. Bishop,
yeah,
Ms. Hockett,
In.
Mr. Wilson,
out.
Mr. Jenkins,
In.
Ms. Bowman,
Out.
Ms. Hicks.
No.
Yeah. All right, so it's 3-3. So there's no decision on that. I'm under the assumption then that with a tie, and I can't break a tie, then it is out.
Mhm.
Is that,
Yeah.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Randy, where am I, brother?
I would say that'd be case.
Okay. Okay. Next is the Montgomery County Museum of Art, Museum of Art and History. Let's do it this way. Those that want to be in, raise your hand. 3. Outs, still.
Yep.
3. I will break that tie to include. Next is Salvation Army, $10,000. All those who would like to see it in the budget. All those opposed to having it in the budget? Do what?
Easy.
Did the museum just do?
You said Salvation Army.
Oh, that's the one I'm working on right now. So
You did.
we're 3-3.
He did it. Yeah, he did, but I think he used another name, something. Yeah.
I did Montgomery Museum.
Okay.
The next is the Salvation Army, which I polled it to be 3-3. I will break that tie for inclusion. Wonder Universe, $10,000. They were not awarded last year. They were awarded $10,000 in 2024. Those who would like to see it included?
I'm sorry, I'm off the track somewhere. So we get this about Salvation Army,
That's in.
but they not. 2, 3. Oh, it's not enough.
I believe you skipped the literacy
Something.
NRV.
Something's off somewhere.
I think you skipped the literacy NRV. That's when they requested $2,313.
I did miss that one. All right,
That's what
Literacy
we got.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you might want to start, because that threw me out.
That'll catch us back up.
Yeah,
Those for inclusion. Did you,
yes.
those for exclusion? I will vote to break the tie for inclusion. Inclusion. So to go back, and we're not done yet, but we have made a recommendation on Children's Trust, on the Community Health Foundation. We've made a decision on the Literacy Volunteers. We've made a decision on the Imagination Library. We have made a decision on the Montgomery County Museum. We have made a decision on Wonder Universe, the last. That's it. Wonder Universe is the last one we
This
have.
one we just did.
Huh?
This one we just did. And I think Imagination Library was he was saying we haven't done yet.
So,
The Imagination Library.
Well,
No, I'm
that's a
sorry, the
good-
Literacy NRV, Literacy NRV.
but that's $2,300. Or 2103, just to go back, those that would like to have it included. 3, Those that do not want it included is 3. And I believe I broke the tie to include.
Imaginations on the two of them.
Right, that's a total of 17,500. So we're looking at somewhere approximately 30,000, 31,000, some loose change. I don't have a calculator out, but so that would be the recommended inclusion in the budget figure.
Since we're right underneath and we finished that community support, there is still the community and economic development. I have a question regarding. So I'm all for the NRB agency and agent, obviously, but I have a question regarding this that are part of our kind of heavy responsibilities of the town to belong to, because we have made agreements with some of these organizations. How does it work out as far as like, I heard on one of the last meetings with the agency and agent that Radford City was going to be backing out of a lot of this, including agency and agent. Let's per se, and I'm not talking about them as far as like getting all, but if the town ever decided to do something like that, I guess, are we able to exclude ourselves from any of these responsibilities very easily, or how does that actually work? Like including like the airports and then.
It would depend on the organization we're talking about.
And you agreement signed. Some of them,
Yeah.
as with tourism, require 1-year notice.
Mhm.
Others, it's hard to say, but each one of them are individual agreements are signed and approved by council.
The 6 authorities, water authority and solid waste, the 2 airports, the passenger rail, and the 911 authority.
For example, if the town wanted to exclude themselves from being part of the Virginia Tech Airport, for how long is that contract for?
Well, I think that we could back out. I'd want to just look into the agreement, but there's an agreement between us, Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, and Montgomery County.
Is there any reason why Blacksburg doesn't give any money to this, the town itself?
To the airport?
Yeah,
I think they do contribute to the airport.
are you sure?
I can't.
Can
swear to
you
it.
double check on that for me for next time, and then is it hard for you to find out what the agreements, when the timelines are gonna be for all of them?
Yes.
So we'd have to have a timeline for each agreement.
Because I know we vote on different people that serve on these committees, but as far as like a timeline of when they stop or when they start, the only one I have really seen is for tourism. So I would really like to see the other ones too. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, I know there's solid waste, actually done about this summer. So that's the most, I think that's the most current one expired.
Is that something we can ever look into, just getting out and just completely going to a company to do it for us, or do you still?
We could make that decision this summer, potentially.
And so we looked at it last year. I think the last year, the year before, we bid out solid waste. And it was almost double what we pay to the authority. Because we had actually.
Keep in mind, you're gonna be following a lot further distance.
Right.
You're taking it somewhere else.
So we actually did it. We did a bid and had several companies come back in, and we can do it for half what it would cost us to pay somebody to do it otherwise.
And a lot of it is because we own a lot of the equipment and the trash cans and all the stuff. Is that why?
We do have just garbage trucks.
And the trash cans, is that correct?
Yes, carts and recycling. We own the recycling parts. We don't own the garbage.
We own the garbage and not the recycling.
garbage and not the recycling.
And we actually figured it was less expensive to buy with one or two trucks. It would, with the money it would have cost to pay somebody else to do it, we were able to buy.
Well, but I was part of those meetings, but what I want to know, like, if you were to decide, and those numbers can fluctuate over time, because obviously employees and benefits and merits and all kinds of stuff in the future. And trucks, the prices of trucks, if that was the case, we're able to get out, no problem, right? Or being part of that authority, right?
I think we could potentially leave with the agreement. Yes, we could. If we did, we better have a plan in place as far as whether we're going to make a run stuff.
But we're not responsible to continually take care of the current land that is being served by them, correct?
To be honest, I want to, I guess, check on the agreements.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, we, over the last 2 weeks, we've had several questions and answers coming from staff, from council to staff. I have read the responses, as I hope that those have submitted the questions. I feel like they were honestly answered and could clear up a lot of things. And I know that we want to address the cell phone stipends, but I think we also addressed that last year and determined it was cheaper than buying the phones and paying the service for the individuals that we deem necessary to have.
I think the questions were asked. I don't think there were really decisions made at the time.
We voted on it last year. You separated it out of the budget last year and we voted on that one, that line item individually.
But that was for that year. That can change anytime we change our mind and look into it. I think a lot of it.
We can separate it out of this budget as a line item and vote on it separately again.
Yeah, I would just like, I'm not opposed for people that need those funds, but I would just like to know the positions of the people that are receiving them. There's almost 100 employees with phones right now. It's, what, like
Less than half.
40%.
Yeah, less than
Yeah.
half. And I think the average bill
I
is
mean, if it's for the police and they need them, I certainly wouldn't want to take away from a necessity. But we're so close here on this budget, I think, I really don't think anybody's considering what may happen with things higher up, and I'm a little nervous.
I was gonna ask regarding, so yes, I got a lot of questions answered and things like that, but I still have some questions back out of those things. But I do want to find out, because I do remember in the past, and I know some of you guys that are in council within the last years were not part of those conversations, but even some of the conversations were brought up specifically by council members that were like Showalter and stuff, where they used to mention about, we would like to see those come to town council for work sessions before they show up in the budget. I know that the budget, we're still working on the budget, but like I would have liked to see those merits and COLAs and things like that being brought up to us during the work sessions before they show up in the budget. As I know it's a draft, so don't get me in that, but it's kind of nice to find that out. One of the things that I was trying to find out is, so if the dollar amount of the 2.5% for COLA, and then you have a dollar amount of, what is the dollar amount for those two? For the 2.5% for COLA, do you have that amount, Brandy?
apparently he does.
Okay, and then what's the dollar amount for the 2% merit raise?
Okay, the budget allocation for the merit is 202,500.
And where is that in the budget?
It is going to be in salaries.
Is this on your page? 2%?
It's spread across all
Makes sense.
departments, I assume, but it's based on the salaries.
And just realize, if you look at the bottom also, the total, that cost is three points.
I'm so sorry, I missed what you just said. Can you repeat everything you just said?
The COLA adjustment, total cost on it is $328,125. And the merit, total cost on it is $262,500.
All right. And so in total, it can actually be a 4.5% increase, correct? If you were to give it to them?
If an employee got a 2% merit increase, yes, they would get a 4.5%.
But not all get merit increases. Is that correct?
Correct.
So are you using the correct word or not? Because isn't merit like an increase for the job is really not the definition?
Merit increases based on your performance evaluation.
Okay,
Employees that receive satisfactory performance evaluations receive merit increases. The amount is basically dependent on their performance evaluation score.
but you say you were gonna give it to people that were working for us for more than 6 months, so that will not be
Well,
considered.
employees that are been employed less than 6 months aren't eligible for a merit. And I'm also not eligible for merit unless it's given by the council. So I'm not part of the merit pool. And either are new hires within 6 months. Basically 6 months of the
Okay.
allocation.
And this one has all the information on what was it last year too, correct?
It's got historical rates for both, cost of living and there for the town.
Did we give one out last year?
Yes, last year, there was a 2% merit and a 5% COLA. On the left-hand side, you've got the consumer price index increase basically year over year. And that's for the southern urban area, which is what Christiansburg is considered.
Mhm.
So over the 2 years, that would be a 11.5% increase if they got those.
Actually, it would be, let's see, 4.5 and. Last year it was 3%, the year before it was 5%. So the current budget allocation was 3% and the 2% merit. Last year's allocation was a 5% COLA and a 2% merit. We've consistently done the 2% merit since we instituted the performance evaluation process. And we've tried to determine the COLA based in part on the consumer price index increase for this year.
So it's actually 12% for the 2 years is what you're saying.
It's proposed to be 4.5 this year total between the two. It was 5% in the current budget. Last year, that's total. Last year, it was 7% total.
Thank you.
So it's still 12%. And everyone in the town is making at least $15 an hour, correct? We bring that up.
That is correct.
What is the minimum that someone is making right now, do you know? As far as an hourly wage,
15.
15? And that's still possibly for the aquatic center and stuff.
We probably do have a few, it's mainly part-time that we make. 15.
What's the starting price of that you guys are paying per hour at the public works?
Depends on your position, but
1630.
15. How are you guys doing with keeping employees and hiring people at public works?
We're
16 positions vacant right now.
What's the percentage on that right now as far as 16?
Usually the 106.
It was 103 when we were fully staffed.
Sorry.
So that's almost what, 20%? 16%.
Sorry, 16.
16. Thank you.
Almost 20%. It's 103 employees.
Hmm.
Do you think that,
Any comments or questions? Mr. Bishop,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Hawkins,
no questions or comments?
this board, Mr. Woods?
Randy, on page 49, when I talked about the $80,000 in medical supplies, it was actually online budget. It was a draft budget online. It's actually being fixed. He showed up different than when we showed up on in here.
The, that was on medical supplies, is that correct?
Yeah,
And if I'm not mistaken,
that's for the rest.
Josh, are we now, before we're having to buy some of our own medication for the rescue squad?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So that's why the differential is up there.
Mhm.
We used to get a free swap box or something, and that's
It's
gone
used to
to
be
the wayside.
completely free, and now it's completely on us.
There is no incentives there is no way for any reimbursement through the state with that, for that.
Took it all away.
Actual reimbursement was giving us the medication, not costing us bottom line.
Oh, okay. So we're not just giving.
That was actually under your budget and not the streets.
And that actually just went into, I mean, we're only 4 days into it, so, yeah.
You do use medications. Is that billed back to the patient that kind of with the insurance?
Our billing's tiered billing, so there's certain things that elevate it from one tier to another. Medications do, the additional medications will raise the tier, but it's not the only thing.
All right, so I had a question here. When I was looking at is the Safe Streets for the $120,000 grant allocated? Is there a chance we're going to lose it? And was the Christiansburg Institute grant to the town is overseen allocated? Didn't they just lose the grant? So can you tell me a little bit about that? I know I didn't see anything on the budget for this following year as far as that, but can you tell me, because I know the last budget, I think there was like a line for $600,000.
It is still allocated. We actually haven't used, and so Meredith, I talked to, Meredith a little ago, and she said the Fed said that the Safe Streets is back on. So we're good to go with that.
So Safer Streets is back on.
Yep.
But the Christiansburg Institute, how is that going?
Their funding is separate from ours.
But there was a line in there for under our budget.
Community support. Helps.
Anything under capital for Christiansburg.
For last year it was. Wasn't? Because we did the grant application with them, right?
Have to look in the budget, so you can include in the community support. But
It wouldn't have been under community support, it would have been under grants for, I believe it was capital. No, it wouldn't be under that.
They had some grant to have their roof redone and.
No, but that happened years
We had
ago.
to sign, they had to go through a government in order to get, they had to go through a municipality in order to get.
But my
grant, but-
understanding was that they went through us and that was the reason they were not applying. Do you remember that?
I do, and actually, let me, Katie and I'll talk with Val about that. And I think that is basically just, let me check into whether it's.
Is this, on which property is this?
It's just passed. for-
The Christiansburg Institute.
That's gotta be good.
I think it's really kind of just passed for it on the grant, but let me check.
If I remember correctly, it's a grant awarded by the state that it had to be awarded to a municipality
It
to
was.
oversee and make sure the bills and the budgets and everything for done properly.
Yeah, but now
So
that
it's not,
that has been
it's not our
taken away.
money or our, particularly our taxpayer money, it's state money that we're.
I know that, but I wonder how our involvement in that, and now that the money is not allocated anymore, even though some of those funds were supposed to be used already. Did that do anything to our budget? Did we do anything with it whatsoever?
So you're asking if, has that grant now been canceled?
I thought it was. canceled.
Have you? I mean, it has not. I mean, they funded us that money.
We have laid off of one position, about 5%.
It did.
Yeah.
Can you double check on that? They posted all kinds of stuff on.
It should not affect our budget because it's not our money.
Yeah.
It's not included in our budget.
And there's a difference between the building and the Christiansburg Institute.
I know, because they're not even allowing the property. Yeah, I understand.
And the money went towards the building, not towards, so what,
Right now, they're both in court, from my understanding. So
yeah, but the money that we had worked on was money that was allocated for repairs of the building and not to pay their staff over there, which are two separate entities. So it went to the alumni board instead of the Christiansburg Institute.
I want to double check on all of this because that was part of
I
our
agree. I'm
budget
not the
last
arguing, I'm
year.
just saying that that's,
I don't see it this year on the budget, but I would like to see that on. I can check on it and to tell you where it was under. What?
It's never been a part of the budget.
It was on their
It was a
federal
grant.
state.
It was a grant that we were administering for the state or for whomever. Is that correct?
What were you
So
saying?
a little bit on what Mr. Wilson said, I spoke to someone at Old Hill School, which is the community center. That was in our budget for the current fiscal year. We have $10,000.
That's something.
But that was for helping them repair something with the building, I believe.
And that is separate from Christiansburg Institute too. I just want.
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, but
All school is up on.
We'll look it up on the budget.
It's probably the separate organizations.
I think somebody figure out what we're, and we'll get an answer.
Well, I do understand that we had some involvement with them, so can you clarify where we are at with that?
Both, and we funded both to some degree for repairs for both buildings.
Well, I understand the ones back with the roof and everything else. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for the ones that I think it was 2-3 years ago. You guys were probably there, maybe not.
2 years
When
ago.
they came in to town council and said, we don't need no funding from you because we're getting from the state, but thank you for the help. Because we thought we were doing some work for them to get it, because I thought they had to come through the town to be able to get the grants, wasn't it?
I do know we have some type of involvement in that. Let me check on that.
Okay, please do. Okay. Do we ever have to write any checks when we do that type of collaboration with other organizations?
I think that we'd have to write a check for something like that.
No. No, okay. Wonder. All right, so I had a question. You reply on my number 1 question, Overflow Park, about the plans for $950,000. And that's only for the design. Are we talking about the second stage on the park that you guys had when we're talking about discussion about the park, when we're going to be building the park?
Yes.
The second phase?
That is 950,000 for design, and this would be basically extension of the Booker T. Washington Parkway to the parking at basically adjoining the sports fields. There's 2 overflow parking that adjoin the sports fields. So it would be basically bringing that road up grade wise, because right now, if you build it, it would not meet street grade.
Can you show?
We could build it a little bit cheaper than that, but you're gonna be rebuilding it later if you do that. Because it won't meet street grade criteria with the slope. So I would prefer to go ahead and build it right. And basically building that road Like I say, parking, the lighting, it'll also involve stormwater quality. We're taking care of quantity with ponds, but we still have to address quality. Like I say, it's a lot involved in that. So, and that's basically at the park and at the aquatic center. It's approximately 8 million total.
Randy, how did this get on the budget without conversation from town council first?
This was the number one priority of town council of our retreats that we had about a year and a half ago.
I thought we were talking about the parking lot that it was gonna be used where the land possibly was going to be, if it was gonna be for resale or if we were gonna keep it. I thought that that's what we're talking about in those meetings. So we're talking about completely different map. Is that what you're talking about?
Bring up to basically, like I say, we're talking about the parking that adjoins the sports fields. So it's not the parking as soon as you pull in off of Pepper's Ferry Ring on either left or the right. It's not those out parcels. It's not the out parcels.
Is the $8 million for the parking?
It's for building the access to street standards to get to the parking, and then building a private drive off of the street standard road to get to the parking, also building the parking and lighting for the parking.
Are you building part of the connector road with this money?
Correct. That's basically what we would be doing.
Because I thought the
small segment.
connector
It's a
road
small
was gonna
segment.
be like a close to
Yeah,
20 million.
It will. This is a small segment on it.
Can you, if you don't find it here, can you send that to us?
Nice notes.
Basically, talking about the parking, basically building it from here. And like I said, there's a dip down here. So we would have to bring that grade up. So that's a significant cost. Basically build it to here as a public street, then basically build the parking area here and the parking area there off of the little private drive. And like I said, there's also some stormwater quality. Also would include, I guess, construction of the pickleball courts potentially, and potentially the aquatics over the flood park.
Wasn't the pickleball courts included in the past
We
budgets?
do have some money budgeted for that now. We actually have a design for the pickleball courts that we can use. I'm actually, I guess, discussing somebody potentially donating the pickleball courts to us right now. So, but there's some money in the current budget for pickleball.
Because we have been discussing this one for a couple of years on this.
Yes, and we do have a design.
So wouldn't it be, how many parking spaces is that gonna provide? Because I understand, because if we're doing that all the way up to here, and I thought that the chances were that the state will eventually one day give us money for the connector road. Doesn't that kill that revenue?
So it actually, sorry, I'm getting.
He's a big dog guy, he'll tell you.
It may increase your chances if you build part of it, because it's basically the formula that they use for smart scale. And smart scale is what we've been asking for. That's essentially 100% VDOT funding. It is all VDOT funding with the exception of 3% of right-of-way acquisition, which is not much. On the North Franklin Street project, it was like $8.5 billion, and we maybe had paid 20,000, something like that. It wasn't much. Anyhow, small amount of town money in a smart scale if you receive funding for it. But it is very competitive, and it is essentially a cost benefit analysis. VDOT does using a formula. It literally changes every cycle. So I can't tell you what it will be, next year, but it actually changed it to a 2-year cycle as well.
Have we jumped up? Have we jumped up on their priority list? Because a couple of years ago, we were
up and down in their storm, depending on the years. The very first year of the program, when it was called HP2, we were included for funding. The entire smart scale project in the initial draft of VDOT's budget. But we were removed basically by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. They included the S curves in Bedford County on Route 58. That's maybe 9 years ago, something like that. And we actually did score well enough for inclusion the very first year of the program. But we were removed anyhow, but we received also the North Franklin Street project that same year. So I think that's probably part of the reason we took that one out, not just the overall cost.
So we put in the $350,000 in this year's budget. From where do you foresee seeing the $8 million coming from?
Well, I think you basically start a capital reserve fund. We've just done a major project. I think kind of similar to the aquatic center project that we did 15 years ago. And I don't think it's a thing wrong with maybe kind of taking a year or two breathing room from that. Assessing what your maintenance costs are and things on the new part. And I guess kind of slowly budgeting for your capital desires. And I take it your capital desires from your work session, I took it as number one, basically getting the overflow facilities. Number two, emergency services facilities, and number three, the public works overflow.
But I think
Public works complex.
when I was talking about the overflow parking, it was the other parking spaces on front where you said that you will post about $80,000 in gravel to put down, and the public works was going to be.
It's still on the right coming in.
Yeah.
That was not what
We
we
have-
initially
we have-
designed as parking anyway, but we've had to include it. Build it.
We have had discussion about this, and I do take the direction to try to build the parking back here. We are doing temporary parking here. Now, that's cheap temporary parking. Basically, we put down,
Yeah, gravel.
gravel, basically, felt paper, so we try to save the gravel and not push it into the ground. But yes, we're just gonna gravel that area.
So
Actually,
I don't know about the construction as part of like big projects like this, but once you do pay $950,000 for a design. As per se, I know for sure that right now we don't have the money in the budget to be able to put in there unless you were to do some tax increases or something like that. And even for a capital reserve fund, that's gonna take years in the making, from my understanding.
Well,
How do you assume that, we have $950,000 in a design? And obviously with construction and different things and prices and things changing over time, if we don't have the money in 5 years, you're probably gonna need a new design in 5 years.
if you look at the budget now, there's a lot of match for VDOT projects, whether it's a transportation project, stormwater project. There's a lot of that included in the budget. Obviously that ties up our capital, and I'll let you know, engineering sort of feels that they're to some degree maxed out on project management too. So we aren't going to apply necessarily for any other projects, maybe smart scale if we can get 100% funding, but we are planning with engineering to sort of take a little bit of a break on applying for grants, even if it's a 50-50 grant match potentially. And try to, like I say, maybe build a little bit of reserve fund for something like this.
And that's,
And
and that's,
if you do that, I think you could probably save money fairly quickly. But towards,
I feel like better saving a little bit of cushion, because I feel like there are a lot of things that have come up lately that I have seen that possibly were not being able to see so much in the past. Like, you got fire EMS that's gonna be needing a lot more paying positions. The chances of, being able to pay more money into that, even the potholes in the town that require a lot more, infrastructure we're dealing with, we're gonna have to fix the infrastructure. And how do we put this to the citizens and say, hey, we're paying $8 million for a nice parking lot when you have the rest of the town that needs a lot more paving too? So what I'm saying is, it's nice that we did the park. It's nice that we have been doing a lot of those nice things, but at the same time, how do we balance and make sure that, you know, we're taking care of those priorities too? Because I don't see like the parking lot right now, especially since we got temporarily parking spaces right now with the gravel, even if it's that way. But I think, you know, what are our necessities for today? And I think one of those things is where really my biggest concern, I love being able to provide things for my family and for the town and for everything. But at the same time, we have a very, I mean, it's a nice budget, but we have to be very conservative in how we spend it. And that's one of my biggest concerns. Is there any way that we can hold on a few of these things to be able to get there?
I think to say that, given a shift from our meeting, I'm not in disagreement with holding off on the engineering for this road this next year. Primarily because I think putting the fire rescue EMS positions back in the budget are a bigger priority than building a road for us to have parking that we're not going to have for several years anyway. And I realize we still have to do it and it's going to cost us money at some point, but if we can't afford to pay for fire and rescue on our budget, I think we have to, or just think we have to prioritize where the money goes. And that's a nice to have, not what I think is a need to have. And we had a work session months ago where we told the fire chief, if you hire 4 people, hire them, we'll figure out how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? So rescue and rescue's got an issue now with some temporary or the part-time positions and stuff, being able to pay these folks the hours and so I think we have a bigger responsibility to our citizens and providing them with safety.
First
and
responder service.
the emergency services than we do building the road. So because of that, personally, I'm not in disagreement with the $950,000 with us curtailing that project and kicking it down the road. I'd rather kick that down the road than kick down emergency services.
Yeah.
Personally.
And it's not that you guys are not doing a good job as far as putting in something like that in the budget for us to look into, you know, those are nice things. I mean,
That's
really
why
nice
we have
things
these
to have.
meetings is so that us elected civic leaders make these decisions about what to do with the money.
And they're not easy to make. I mean, we
No,
want,
but-
you know, we want those things, so.
Anybody else have a thought on?
Well, it's not a thought, it's a comment, I guess. Under the fire name, I'm not putting them down by any means. But did we make that decision to do that, or did we just talk about it? Because I know one time the chief said he wanted 4, and then I think the mayor said, well, let's do 6. And so that's from
Because I
computer.
think all of them ended up getting cut in the original budget. Was presented,
Right.
is that correct?
Right.
You cut
Yeah.
4 fire or 6 fire,
I think it was 2 fire and 4 EMS,
6 EMS?
6 EMS and
6 EMS and 2 full-time fire.
But that's a decision that the town manager and finance director made. I respect that decision.
To get to a balance budget. Now, is this $985,000 in the budget, Randy? That's done.
$950,000.
Whatever.
It's on that budget draft, which it can be taken out or put in
Well,
place.
this is what we're here for, to be able to determine, you know, a better reassignment of funds. You know, a parking lot out there doesn't turn me on at all. And I look at it, if you go back and look coming in, we got those 2 lots still that we're sitting on. If we have to, you can run parking up there. We'll just have to provide some kind of shuttle to get them up there, but I mean, there is other uncommitted space that we can use temporary from season to season, the parking, and that certainly would not cost that great amount of money.
Do I remember right that there was a discussion about having the Parks and Rec team use like a shuttle to get to the parking site? Is that still a possibility?
I think it's possible, but of course, you can use a hot road for anything.
I agree. I mean, if we could do that, if we can use that lower lot and put the parking there and continue, because they had some repairs to do on that shuttle, is that right? And did they do those?
Yes, yes.
Those are done.
It's functional.
So, I mean, if we could use that and, yeah, they have the golf carts, I guess, that run the parking down to that lower lot. And then the shuttle to go across the road. So if that's working, and I haven't heard any complaints about it, then I think maybe we have a solution for right now. Yeah, so I mean, I think that that is a totally acceptable temporary solution. But if we take the $950,000 out, does that mean you will put positions for emergency response back in the budget? Is that the next priority?
Whatever council directs me to do.
Would you say that that's the next priority? I mean, what, if we took that out, what would your recommendation be for the next priority? Would it be that?
I would probably, if you want to build that parking, I would probably put it in capital reserve fund. And you want that done one day.
Well, so we don't know what the total cost of our 6, 8, 10 employees are gonna be. So let's just.
It's not
If
free money that we have right
I mean,
there.
if you're looking at, let's say,
It might be a year out from the discussions with the county.
yeah, 50,000, average of 50,000, I don't know. And you got, that's 500,000. Then, if that's what it takes to, well, of course, then you gotta figure 35% reserve. So you're about
About
900,000.
100,000.
Yeah, so, anything, any residue, and all those, I doubt if all of those are gonna be, all these 8 people can be hired within the next 12 months anyway, the way things are going, unless there's something out there I don't know about. But I think, I do think that the design and on the parking lots for the parks needs to be rechanneled into something that we really need. And that's, I think, fire and rescue and all, what we really need to focus on at this point.
Just remember, Tanya, it's not like the money that we have in this budget is always a lot better to actually have it under the general fund, is that correct? So you're able to use it in case you have emergencies. Right now, that 35%, I think we are under right now, is that correct? I mean, it's a lot better to say we have this money in there in case something does happen. I mean, we lost 6 firemen in 1 year, right? Was it last year that we lost 6 firemen? Four. That's still a big amount. And they were volunteers, right?
What's that?
They were all volunteers, correct? And I mean, that's not just talking about, we may lose them, a whole bunch of them this year and following years, but it's good to have that money in reserves for right now to see what happens. It's good to have money in the bank to say, we got emergencies, we got necessities. It's
So you're
not.
not for allocating money to EMS.
Oh, I am.
Oh.
Well, what I'm saying is that if we have any extra money that we can move around, it's good to have it in there. No, I'm
Either one
not.
of us.
No.
So, and you mentioned the 31%, 30 reserve, just, that's a sliding target. And we can, if push comes to shove, if something major happens and we have to spend $5 million, we can. We can lower our requirement to 20% reserves after we use that, but it's not, it's not
It's
set in
good to
stone,
have
we can't go below.
But it's good to have it in there.
Oh, of course.
As an
And the
emergency
original goal of that was if the town received no income whatsoever for 6 months, it would pay our bills. And that's, this goes back from the 25 years I've been on this council, that it's always been there. There's always been a good reserve
We
fund.
never thought we'd be in COVID times years ago, and so it's just good to play now. I have another question, Randy, regarding, you referenced regarding the 187,000 for the rail system thing, and you separate a couple of the items. You were talking about that you wanted to do some repairs to the Peppersville Road Northwest Rail Crossing repair thing. Why isn't I understand that they're a pain in the neck to work with Norfolk Southern on some items, but if the cost of this is gonna be that much money and they're getting so much money from the state right now and all their things, is there any way, and can you tell me what steps are you taking to make sure that, is there a way that they can cover those costs?
I got an answer for that one.
Okay,
So we're getting, I think it's 100% state of good repair funds to pay Route 114 from Marshall Drive out beyond Quinn Stewart. That 175,000 will be to repair that Norfolk Southern crossing. So when we pave it, they don't have to come back in and cut our pavement later and do something there. So it's to get it all done at one time.
so there is no way we can ask them for that money?
No.
How come?
I mean, we can not do anything and let them go because Norfolk Southern is the ones that can touch their crossing. We can't touch their crossing. VDOT can't touch their crossing. But VDOT is essentially giving us 100% funding to repave that section. And we can either leave a hole there where the railroad crossing is and they can do it whenever they want to, or we can pay them 175,000, get it all fixed.
So we're getting this money from VDA 100%.
Yeah, it's state of good repair.
Okay, and then there was, I have a question regarding my number 5 question, where you said, the allocation for page 37 and stuff like that for $25,000 for the signage for the Kenneth B. Gibson Memorial Park in Ryan Roanoke Street. Who actually owns that, parking lot?
VDOT means the parking lot.
And can we not ask VDOT to put a sign out there instead of us?
And they will, although it will be a very plain, basically VDOT sign. Council wanted a more decorative sign there, and they wanted it to be in keeping with our wayfinding signage. Something similar to what we have in the parks, the small, I guess, maybe 2 foot tall signs you see at our parks. That's what they wanted there. They had discussed it back when we were working on the wayfinding signage program, and just basically directed me to do it in the future.
But that was other council members.
It
Can we talk about this one now with these council members and see who is in agreement to pay $25,000 for this? Is this really a necessity right now?
Can I ask what the difference in the price would be for the sign that you just explained?
Well, VDOT, like I say, would probably put up some on the like I
So
say,
25 grand is the difference then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any way we can ask them for the sign and see what that looks like for a while until we figure out if we, to put another one up?
I can.
Especially, how does that work since that's their property too, right? Or will that be put up in town property?
I believe it is VDOT right away, well, VDOT property going into it, I believe. I'll check that.
Now, I will say if
But
they're
on-
gonna put a sign out there, is their parking
The area
right?
I was thinking is basically on the right-hand side as you're going and adjoining Caliber Collision, although if there is, like I say, I think VDOT property there.
Yeah, but that's $25,000. So I will say, and this is me as town council person, being very, budget conscious. I will say if VDOT, and VDOT's their property, is their parking right? If they can put their own sign, that would be great.
I would agree with that.
Randy, when I send, my question number 9, what is the 5-year forecast that will, say to increase taxes until 2028, where 31%, and since we're not doing it, but on your statement on page 86, is the forecast includes revenues of fiscal year 2026. For years 2027 and beyond, includes projections that are based on a return pre-COVID growth and a slower rate with inflation of all years in 2% and a need to raise property taxes 2 to 3 cents in 2028 to 2029 to help with funding aging infrastructure and growing programs in public safety, parks, and recreation. So yes, there is a possibility of taxing.
So I will take blame for that.
Okay,
It is the same verbiage that was used in last year's. It's not a change for this year. It's the same verbiage and what was projected for last year.
I think it's been in the past
So,
probably 6 or 7 years,
yeah.
to be honest.
This one, yeah, it's just the forecast. It will likely change between now and then. Again, it wasn't intentional. Again, I used what verbiage was in there from last year for the 2 to 3 cent increase and going with our conservative estimates that Randy mentioned in that.
I guess I'll tell you my personal opinion of the tax increase, and I think I kind of hinted at it earlier, that I think you're fine fiscally. You have good operating, fund balance policy, I think kind of assures you're gonna have good operating in the year. The fact, like I say, the fact that we have done just a major project, similar to the one we did 15 years ago, it's a very large project. Like I said, I don't see a thing wrong with kind of taking a year or two and assessing your situation. We can maintain what we have without a tax increase. If you want to do another large project or something soon, and that includes, potentially 8 million for a parking area and building the road again and paving the aquatic center. If you want to do it quickly, you might need a tax increase. If you want to handle it, like I say, as I mentioned, trying to basically budget in reserve funds for the next couple of years, I would think you could probably do it in maybe 2 or 3 years. I think that's very reasonable. But again, if you are going to do things on an expedited scale, or if you're going to try to do another major project, we're looking at acquiring other property. We probably want to do something with the other property. We do have the public works complex also that we're looking at that we've bought. We're going to do it, I think, as cheaply, reasonably as we can. We'll do a few small things as we go, like plant trees, help screen. But we'll do it, like I say, at a reasonable pace and a comfortable pace. And I think you can do that without a tax increase. We've really been doing that here in town kind of my whole time here. Yeah, the tax rate's going up and down a little bit my time here, but right now 14 cents per hundred is as cheap as I guess real estate tax rate for a town our size, as you'll probably find. Like I said, particularly considering the services that we're providing. But we can manage as it is with the budget, and I think we're doing that with the current budget. We're managing and we're doing a little bit towards the future things you want to do. We're just not doing a big chunk of it because you just can't do a big chunk of it.
well, we just did a bunch of stuff. Where in the budget was the whole thing about the land acquisition for the rec center? Can you direct me where that is? Is that under capital projects? I haven't seen.
That's in the current budget.
And where was it under? I couldn't see it.
No, it's in this budget amendment for the.
Oh,
still
okay.
We're still in this.
It's in the current.
Okay. But there is nothing allocated for paving or anything under this budget for that, right?
Correct.
While we're talking about parking, what about the parking lot that we purchased at Town Hall adjacent here?
We're looking, we think there's probably underground stream in the area. We're going to kind of do a little bit of analysis of that, but we plan on repaving.
We're gonna do some underground. It's not just a simple strip off and repave. There may be some additional engineering that we want to do so we get it right and do it more time.
But in the interim, until we do the refacing of it, we can maintain it to where it's a little bit smoother than what it is now, and whether it's fixing potholes or whatever, we can do that, and just not shop tearing the building down.
Yes.
That's good.
Appreciate that.
And the other management, you had like three people in there. But then under the budget, there was something around 460,000, 480, almost $500,000 for management. Can you tell me who the three people are? That would be you, Chippy, and who else?
The administration.
Yeah.
Myself, Scott Shippey, and Tracy Henline, I would think would be, if it's three people under administration.
Okay. And who is the part-time one?
Wayne Nelson.
Oh, and he's under administration,
Correct.
so he's not under planning or engineering anymore?
He's retired and he's part-time.
Yeah,
He's done a lot of special projects for us over the last couple of years and done very well with them. Any other questions or comments? So I think what we have is we have a general consensus is the $950,000 that we were going to project spending on design. We're gonna put that in the budget for, in the form of employees, is that correct? I mean, that was the general recommendation I think I heard from council
That's
is the emergency service from first responders to see what we can do to bump those staffs up.
I agree.
Is that agreeable? You know, we're not passing budgets tonight, but I mean, so when it is represented, I guess it would be figured into the salaries and administrations and those, is that correct? Well, I mean, well, you know, we can vote on anything, not really.
Yeah,
We can
do
give our
those
opinion.
salaries equal that amount, or is there?
No, but, it's something that
I
we
think
can put in.
that's our design. When we see the new draft budget that we want,
Positions, how many and which ones, and I'll put them in.
the EMS and the firefighting.
You won't be able to fund that.
But can we do 3 EMS, 2 firefighters? And see where that gets us?
3 EMS and 2 firefighters.
Unless, if you and Chief Hanks talk and Josh talk afterwards, and they express a different need to shift because they say we are really in need of these EMS positions more than firefighters, I would take their recommendation for which one was the priority.
And that's additional to the 6 people we just gave them permission to hire, correct? So it would be 9.
So there's 3 police officers included, so that would.
They are included in the budget.
Yes, 3 police officers, 3 EMS and 2 firefighters, that would be 8.
You mean
No,
higher?
I'm not talking about police. I'm just talking about fire department.
You just meant the
With
firefighters.
right now, I've heard 3 EMS and 2 firefighters.
But how many, I think he's asking how many were hired, how many, his council gave a head nod, he was interviewing and said hire.
And he hired
As
2 back
many as you
then.
can, but you replaced the 2 positions, but you didn't hire.
2 empty
2 empty positions, but they didn't hire.
You refilled those,
And
but they
then
weren't
We
additional.
refilled those, those were not additional.
Right, but you didn't hire any additional besides those 2, so it's only the 2 which were already included in your staff.
Correct.
So you don't have any extra, he doesn't have 6 positions, he just has the 2 he already
But
refilled.
add 2 more
Add 2 more
firefighters for
fire.
this next calendar year. And
Total of 4.
And I am questioning why not the 4? Because we gave him okay to get another additional
If you could
2.
hire them, then we would attempt to figure out how we can fund it, is what we
Okay.
planned on, because it was a work session.
How hard will it be to get 4 firemen for this year?
How hard was it to get 2?
It wasn't hard to get 2. I mean, we had 6 applicants and we hired 2, the 2 empty spots. And we interviewed 5 out of the 6 applicants.
I think what I'd like to see is a projection of what your cost and Josh, your cost, if we did 4 and if we did 3, just to see where that plays out in the scheme of the $950,000.
But I still think there's the question of if you asked for 6, is there some necessity for the 6? That we asked for 6 and 2, right, chief?
That's for 6 and 4.
6 and 4,
Right.
okay.
And then we first cut, we went back to 4 and 2, right? On the first cut, after the submittals, I think we cut back to 4 and 2, and then we went to 2 and 1. And 0.
But you know what, between the two, you know what you need most of all.
So tell us
And
what the
so
real
whatever
number
fits
is,
in that.
provide that number so that in a budget that comes to us, and it comes from you guys instead of us telling you what
Yeah.
you need.
Agreed.
We put that.
Everybody okay with
Well,
that?
but my understanding is he's been asking for 2 firemen every year for years.
At the point now where we're discussing, can we afford to fund it? We allocated the 950,000 kind of as the money. Let's let them say that this is what we think we have. Tell us what the best scenario is.
But I want to make sure this is not taken out of the budget, but putting in the budget.
Oh, no, that's absolutely what we're talking about, is they're gonna tell us 3 and 3 or 4 and 2 or whatever, and it comes from the people that are running the department instead of us.
I will advise for, I'm really excited that we're adding these additional positions for this, especially since we're gonna be talking to the county. And we can say, hey, we are investing in our town. We are doing this. Where is your money? So, there you go.
We're still waiting to hear that fictitious meeting. We're not. But,
I'm okay with the dates that you put in there. I think Kim said, yeah.
And just tell us what day you come up with.
It's pretty much it.
I think we're pretty workable. We just want a meeting, so. Yeah.
So we have, I think, made progress. If there's any other things to discuss, when will we advertise the budget for public hearing?
We, actually have already advertised it.
Is it the
paper? But we've advertised it for the first meeting in May.
first meeting in May? So we still have,
Like the 8th.
another meeting, council meeting, and, if, for them to, I assume to get it back adjusted, the what ifs that we looked at. What if we do this? What if we do that? It's not gonna have a huge effect, but, it's gonna, it sounds like a wash, but at least we'll know as a council what we're approving and the staffs we're approving. And I think, we're behind the 8 ball by about 6 or 8 employees in the fire department. We've been trying to hire them for years and we just haven't. And rescue is, we'll see. We think, that's what I'm looking at. If we can help them with their staff, and if they can hire 2 and 4 or 2 and 2, I mean, to me, any addition to current staff is a help.
And Parks and Rec and Aquatics are gonna have such great seasons this next year that
We're not gonna need.
we're gonna, no, I'm just saying, we're gonna have so many people.
We're gonna have so much money coming in from lodging and meals
I
houses.
said,
Is there anything else to come out of this meeting tonight?
I do have one question. Since we had, is that a line is still on the budget that I didn't see under the aquatics for money from Radford? Are they still gonna be giving us money for their?
yeah, we did a proposal, we raised rates for the town and the,
I've
for the-
spoken to Craig. That's a small amount of money in our budget. So
No, from Radford?
Yes, I've spoken to Craig. Now that is, he's the acting city manager. And he said that they may potentially want to eliminate the contract next year. But again, if they do, it's not a huge.
Is Craig Meadows the city manager for Radford?
Is the interim?
The other-
He's building in until they hire him.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, what?
How much is that?
Like 20,000.
What I found?
Now, will be the same,
I think
200 times the.
$2 on each of the,
No, what's the total revenue from them for the year?
last year, 31,000.
So do you foresee that going away this year, or do you foresee still staying in
I
there?
think that we're waiting on.
Let's
their
hope
budget.
it doesn't go away.
Cause they're strapping and cutting everything, so who knows where they're really gonna end up.
my understanding is that if they tried to cut that aquatics thing, that there would be a mutiny in Ranford. There's a lot of people that use that, and they're taking so much other stuff away from them. But who knows? We'll see.
I think they're locked in for half the year. Because of Rome Street or somewhere. They're locked in.
That's over 500 people a month now. And their citizens really reside. So,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time and efforts tonight. I think we've reached some conclusions and made some suggestions that will, affect the budget. I think the final figure I saw was like 31, 213 for the, community support. I think that's, I gave up some more, $31,000, 2017.
Motion to adjourn.
I do.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Motion was second, all those.
Turn it over, Russ.
I'll let the clerk get up and go.
Seconds.